mercenaries, really, that's the double M. Born baller, baby boy, I be above the rim.
What's good, family? It's your boy, Just Blaze, host of the best NBA pod in the game, Above the Rim. Keep it locked each week and join myself and a special guest as we tackle the latest rumblings in the league. If it's happening in the NBA, you know I got you covered. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms and leave that 5-star review. Let's get it.
Obviously, me and JT known each other since we was in the sandbox, so I'm petty. So the first thing in my mind was like, oh, I'm going to talk my shit to him. Like, every year I send him the anniversary picture, like, dog, happy anniversary, man. Like, you know, I appreciate you. Like,
when I get a cut, I think I'm top 5. Top 5 what? Top 5.
I think he's talking about his hairline. Is he top 5 hairline?
Talk about it!
You are now tuned in to Above the Rim. Hoops talk for the streets.
Family, what's good? Welcome back to another edition of Above the Rim. Hoops talk for the streets. You already know how we do. Brought to you as always. It's your host, Justin, aka Just Blaze. Family, you know the drill. To get in contact with me, you can always hit me up and follow me on Twitter at JustBlaze_513, on IG at JustBlaze513, on Facebook, search Above the Rim Podcast. Email the show as well, Above the Rim NBA Podcast at gmail.com. Tap in and leave the family a voicemail. The line is always open, 908-718-1592. I know a lot of y'all want to call me up and talk shit about Chris Paul, and I'm here for it, so call in. To support the show, you can do that as always by copying Merch Family. Link is in my bio, very easy to find. Leave your boy a review on iTunes, Spotify. Check out the YouTube page as well for the visuals. I know I've been slacking for the last week or two, but a lot of shit going on, but I'll be back soon. And link is in my bio, easy to find, like I always said. Joining me this week, family, I had to get my guy on here. I've been wanting to get him on for a couple weeks now, actually a couple of months. I was trying to see it bubble over to see we have a mutual interest in this race right here. But I wanted to get my guy on because we connected on Twitter talking Miami Heat a couple of months ago. Shout out to our guy Chris LeBron also as well for the connection. Got a great show hosting the UpNFlamezPod. Very knowledgeable brother. Had the pleasure of being on his show as well. My man Mo Murphy, a.k.a. Mo Cheese. What's good, my brother? How you living?
Hey, what's going on, bro? Yeah, like you said, like since the last time we talked, I think we was just waiting to see if your prophecy was going to come into fruition so we could go back and revisit this. I was waiting on it. I'm telling you, I was waiting on it. And if that was going to be the finals matchup, Heat versus Suns, I was going to hit you up and be like, all right, we about to talk about this prophecy because I've been following it since you said it on the show.
Dog, you couldn't have said that any better because I was also putting you on ice. I was like, yo, I got myself more on ice. I'm ready to put them on when it happens because a prophecy always happens. And wow, was I in for a shocker? But that's another episode for another day. The prophecy isn't happening, but we can still get halfway. So we'll see, man. So obviously you guys know my man, Mo Murphy's a Heat guy. I know you guys can't see him right now, but my man came in here with the Heat hat, came here ready for the smoke. And that's what I'm talking about, man. Eastern Conference Finals preview. Today, Heat versus Celtics. Eastern Conference Finals start tonight. We have a rematch of the 2020 Bubble Conference Finals. Miami has home court advantage. Boston enters the East Finals riding a stifling defense. Celtics have been the best team in the league over the past 3.5 months. They just eliminated the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks, which me and you both wanted to smoke of the Bucks versus Heat in the conference finals, but we didn't get that. But I rock with it because my boy JT is in there, so I'm rock with it too. So the Celtics, they reached the conference finals for the 4th time in the last 6 seasons, looking to reach the NBA finals for the first time since 2010. The Heat are also in the conference finals for the 9th time in the franchise's 34 seasons. The Heat have home court advantage, like I said before, but they have the East's best home record, 29-12, 6-0 at home in the playoffs, so they are very formidable there in the arena. Jimmy Butler has been on basically a one-man wrecking crew for the Miami Heat, man, leading the team in points, assists, and steals, averaging over 28. Tatum, like I said before, is also coming in with that work, giving you about 27 a night. Exceptional shot making. This series to me might be a switch-heavy series, as we're going to discuss a little bit later. And a really, really tough series for me to decipher because I legitimately like both teams. So, Mo, talk to me, man. Give me your first initial thoughts about this series, overview. How you feeling about this match?
Man, I mean, it was going to be tough either way, whether it was Milwaukee or whether it was Boston. So I wasn't I didn't have a preference while watching that series. I'm like, whoever comes out and wins, it'll be a rematch, whether, like you said, the Eastern Conference Finals in the bubble, or whether we get our smoke back from last year after getting swept by Milwaukee. After beating them, in the playoffs in the bubble. And, last year I had to deal with the Heat being all fraudulent and everything like that. Now we're on top this year, number 1 seed. So I'm looking at it, and I really feel like this series reminds me of the Spider-Man meme, where they both pointing at each other and they're like, is that you? Like, they are literally identical. I think the Heat are a little bit deeper, but they're identical. The way they play, the way they're coached. I know this is a first-year head coach, but he's an extremely excellent head coach, and he's going to give like a veteran first-year head coach, but like first time with Boston, and he's going to give Coach Spo everything he has to handle. So I think this is going to come down to me, it's like a coaching matchup. Like, we're going to talk about X factors and everything like that, but I think this is a chess match between Ime Udoka and Coach Spo. And so, like, that's what I'm interested to see. But your casual fan's not going to be paying attention to that. Your casual fan's not going to look at how a team's coming out of a timeout and give that credit to the coach. They're going to be focused on the Butler versus Tatum, the Adebayo versus Robert Williams type of matchups, the things that the naked eye can see. So that's kind of just my overall thoughts. And I mean, I think whatever way it swings, I think this is a 7-game series regardless. And it might not be exciting for a lot of people. Don't come in here expecting high scoring, very exciting basketball. I think down the stretch, it'll be a great game, but I really think this is like a top-notch UFC cage match, like put 2 best heavyweight fighters in there, and we're going to see who comes out on top.
100%. I couldn't have said that any better, because this series to me is a very 90s-esque type of series. And it's a defensive Knicks Heat we talking about type of series. When they had those Mourning and Ewing rivalries, one of those kind of series. And those are the type of series that I love, because it's tactical. It's a tough series. You got to deal with all kind of things. Somebody might get hurt, hopefully not, but it's going to be that type of physical series that the strongest team, or maybe the most healthiest team, might be the one that advanced at the end of that, and at the end of the series. And we're going to talk about that as well. But I agree with all the points that you said. Like I said before, I think this is going to be a very switch-heavy type of series between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. I think it's going to come down to which team can better take advantage of mismatches after the switching. So I saw on my notes that the Celtics, they switched 55% of their ball screens in the playoffs, and the Heat switched about 40%. But honestly, I think it's a lot more than that, if I'm being honest, because they look like they switch every single possession, no matter who it is. You saw what they did to Trae Young. You saw what they did to James Harden, 2 perimeter threats, 2 elite perimeter threats. And the Boston Celtics have this, not the same type of attack, but they also have perimeter studs that can also really give that work in on single coverage. So let's talk about the X factors in this series. And that's why we're here on Above the Rim, because people, they watch the series, they just look at the naked eye, they just look at the 2 stars of what's going on. But we got to talk about the X factors. So I'm going to let you start off here, and we go back and forth on some of our X factors for the series. Talk to me, Mo. Give me one of your biggest X factors for this particular series.
So I don't know if it's obvious. I don't know. I feel like it's obvious as far as you and me, guys like us, have been waiting for this. I'm very confident this is the unleashing of Victor Oladipo. I'm going to be honest. I really think this is what we continue to win games. We prolonged bringing Victor Oladipo back. Yes. We gave him some solid minutes in the playoffs, but didn't overplay him, didn't overwork him. We gave him that game with no Kyle Lowry, give him an opportunity to close out the series against Atlanta. And I think it was all like tests. Like, how ready to go is Victor Oladipo? We're going to get him in when we can, where we're not testing how well he is ready to go at the expense of winning and losing games. But we're going to test it when we get to that big moment. I think this team was very confident that they would get here. And so I think this is where they kind of unleash Victor Oladipo. I think, no Kyle Lowry in game 1. I think this is where Oladipo steps up. What he's going to average, what his numbers are going to look like, I don't know. But I think he's going to have those 2, maybe even 3 games where, like, without him, Miami doesn't win, which ultimately will be where we look back. If Oladipo didn't give you 20 off the bench, or, 18 in that spot, or went on a 10, scored 10 straight points, or scored 10 points in the third quarter, which got Miami's offense going, because there's going to be a lot of times where these offenses are staying pat.
Yes.
And so I think that's what we're waiting with Victor Oladipo. So, like, there's a lot of X factors on both sides, but I think on the Miami side, like, I think this is where Miami might look to unleash Victor Oladipo. I'm just not sure unleashing him will look like. I'm not saying Indiana Pacers pre-injury of Victor Oladipo is coming back. But I think in those spurts, Coach Spo is going to know where to put him in the best position to succeed. And I think that's going to make a difference, especially he can play defense, but more so offensively when, Miami goes through those stretches where they go cold. Jimmy Butler's not looking to attack and take over and be aggressive at times. You don't usually see that in the playoffs from him, but there are those moments late in the third quarter. And I always say, games like this are won at the end of the first leading into the second, and then they're won at the end of the third leading into the fourth, because the stars are going to be the stars. But when those bench players start coming in and getting those minutes and making the impact, closing out quarters and stuff prior to halftime and the end of the game, I think that's where you can take advantage if there's mismatches. And I think Victor Oladipo will be that guy where he gets a one-on-one with Peyton Pritchard and he eats that alive for 2 to 3 minutes. And those 2 to 3 minutes might be all you need for Miami offense to get going and kind of go on and win that game.
I like that you said that. So I want to piggyback off Oladipo real quick. So I like that you said that because I feel like throughout the playoffs, end of the season, throughout the playoffs, he's really been starting to gain his confidence and he's really starting to, show slightly of the player who he was prior to that. Maybe not all-star level like you said before, but he's been, the confidence to me is the key. In every series, every game, he's going to get a little bit more confidence. We see Spo finally had the trust in him to put him in for extended minutes, even though he kind of had to because of injuries. But still, he trusted in him and said, yo, this is your time, my brother. And he delivered. So he's averaging 11 points per game in the playoffs right now. Do you think he can give you more in this series, Oladipo?
Yeah, I would say 14 because I don't want to put no ridiculous number. I don't know what his minutes are going to look like because I don't know what his minutes are going to look like. If you told me he's going to play 25, 30 minutes consistently, then I'd tell you probably that 17 to 18 points a game where he's pushing to be the second leading scorer for Miami in this series. But I think he's just going to put, instead of, it's quality over quantity. And so I think he's going to play at the moments that we need a guy like Victor Oladipo. And so for that, I say he could average about 14, but I think they're going to have to do that. I think that's what they're looking to do. I think they've been keeping him in the cage and letting him out and take a walk essentially for a little bit, score a few points, show us that you still got it. Even, closing out the regular season when he scored 40, almost had a 40-point triple-double against Orlando Magic. I think that was all right, we're going to give you the keys. Let's see what you can do heading into the playoffs. And then they sat Jimmy Butler. And I think the reason they sat Jimmy Butler in that Atlanta series was to give Victor Oladipo a game where this is your time. Show us what you can do and kind of show us how happy you are and ready to go. Yeah. And he did. He absolutely did. Took that game over. I think he only scored 23 points, but for a guy like him to be able to do that in the playoffs and look healthy while doing it on both ends of the floor, I think that was a huge deal. And I think even they kind of kept him in the cage against Philly. Joel Embiid was out early, so still don't have to unleash him, but give him some minutes here or there. And I think this is a series where you're trying to make it to the championship. You can't hold back anything. And so I think this is where he gets unleashed. Yeah,
I agree. I couldn't agree more on those points, brother, to be honest with you, because Depot is definitely going to have to deliver or give some type of production or some type of elevated production. Definitely going against the Boston Celtics because they are the number one defense in the league, I believe. I know the number one defense since the new year. I believe they're number one in the league, if I'm not mistaken. So we know points are going to be very few and far between and very hard to come by in this series. So I agree with you. So now, on the Celtics side, one of my X factors, I'm going to go with a healthy Time Lord for me in one of my X factors for the Celtics. Now, Time Lord has missed Robert Williams, Time Lord. Everybody calls him Time Lord. For people who don't know, he's missed a couple of games in this playoffs. He hasn't been as healthy. I believe he's having a bone bruise right now. I believe in his knee, but they said he will be healthy for game one. He should be playing. And Udoka said he might extend Robert Williams' minutes in this series. So to me, I'm looking at a healthy Time Lord, not for what he gives the Celtics in terms of production, but his value in this series in terms of guarding Bam Adebayo. Now, to me, one of my also X factors for the Heat is how well Bam plays and how his scoring will improve, because I believe he's going to have to score a little bit more in this particular series in order to put the Miami Heat in the best position where they're not scrapping for buckets. So he's got to score from the tip all the way to the end of the game, Bam Adebayo. I know his facilitating is excellent, his defense is excellent, but he's also got to score some points. And if I'm going for the Celtics, on the Celtics side, a healthy time. I know Al Horford is going to be the main defender on Bam Adebayo for majority of the series, but when Time Lord comes in, and who knows, Udoka he's a coach that makes adjustments, so he might end up putting Time Lord back into the starting lineup to be the guy for Bam. So to me, Time Lord is the dude best equipped for the job to actually defend Bam Adebayo. He's basically the back line of defense for the Boston Celtics. He can cover up a lot of mistakes made when pressuring the offensive player. And like I said before, this is going to be a very switch-heavy series. So if it's a switch-heavy series, it's going to be one-on-one a lot. And if it's one-on-one a lot, somebody's going to get beat off the dribble a couple of times, a few times. And if you're getting beat off the dribble, there's got to be somebody there to block a shot. Now, they didn't really have to deal with that as much because the Bucks were shooting a lot of three-pointers in this series. A lot of their bigs shoot a lot of threes. Porter stands at the three-point line. Brooks stands at the three-point line. Giannis is basically their most important, obviously their most ferocious interior presence out of those guys on the offensive side of the ball. So Bam, to me, presents a little bit of a different challenge because he's a little bit more versatile. I can't say that. Not even more versatile than Giannis because Giannis does it all. But to me, a healthy Time Lord is going to be the key on that backline defense for the Boston Celtics. So do you think Time Lord is going to play any factor in this series?
I mean, you said it best. He's going to play like arguably the biggest factor. And I look at it like this. Like you said, there's going to be a lot of switches, a lot of one-on-one defense, but you don't become the number one defense without having that second line of defense or the final line of defense, because your top defenders, Marcus Smart, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, as far as on the wing, they're going to gamble. They're going to try and pick the pass lanes. Guys are going to get backdoor cuts. It happens. But like you said, a guy like Robert Williams, he can clear out all those mistakes with a block at the rim and a rebound going the other way. Then you don't pay attention to some of the gambling that Marcus Smart is going to do, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. So yeah, a guy like him, just even rim protecting and being that final line of defense defensively, I don't even care if he only averages 6 to 8 points a game. Like offensive production will be handled.
I'll take it.
Yeah, offensive production will be handled essentially. Like we said, I'd almost be surprised if either team averaged over 105 points a game in this series. That's how much of a dogfight I think this is going to be. But yeah, I mean, that final line of defense is always an X factor. And so for him to be coming back basically fully healthy, I don't even think they're having him on a minutes restriction in game one. That is going to be a huge X factor, especially because they just came from a dogfight. And the more minutes you put on an older Al Horford, it's about the time where you start seeing guys his age wear down. Yes. Not that he hasn't played great up to this point, but this is around that time with older guys. Yeah, he had to guard Giannis. And he did a heck of a job. He made him adjust. Giannis, we seen Giannis shooting 32, 34 shots in the game. We're not used to that. We don't really see that from Giannis. So they definitely did a great job adjusting, but this is about that time where guys of his age they end up wearing down a little bit physically, and that's where like Robert Williams comes in with the youth behind Al Horford and basically does pick up whatever Al Horford lacks if he is lacking physically in this series.
And I agree with that. And with that being said, I always say Time Lord is the truth in my mind. I'm a big Time Lord guy, so I've always been a Time Lord guy. So I'm hoping he steps up in this series for the Boston Celtics because they're going to need him to win. On the Heat side for me, one X factor that I thought of is Max Strus. My guy Strus. Now, Strus has been one of the breakout performers of the Heat for this entire playoff run. He's the guy who who got basically Duncan Robinson benched, who was one of their, not leading scorers, but obviously one of their top offensive perimeter threats. He was one of, I think last year or the year before, he was one of the best first quarter scorers because we know what the Heat game plan was in the first quarter. It was always get the ball to Duncan Robinson. A couple of screens, Bam would come down, Jimmy would come down. They didn't even want to shoot. They was like, yo, let's get Duncan. Let him get hot. Let's get some touches because we gonna need him. Because if he doesn't get that many touches, he's gonna start getting cooked on defense. He's gonna start lagging, and we need him to score. So in order for him to be relevant in the series, they had to get him going. Now we know the reason why Duncan Robinson was replaced by Max Strus by Cole Spo is because of his defense. Now Duncan Robinson was getting cooked by every intimidating physical player would say that's the weak link on the Heat. I'm going at this guy. It happened plenty of years. Was he? He was on a team in the bubble, right? Yeah, I was about to say, I'm like, I don't even remember Duncan in that series in the bubble, but he was definitely on the team. But yes, last year he came into his own. He got his extension, but this year he hasn't been the same Duncan Robinson. So insert my guy Max Strus. He's been one of the best performers, one of the better performers of the Heat this entire playoffs. And the way Max Strus scores, he does everything that Duncan Robinson can do, with a little bit more toughness, a little bit more grit, a little bit more intensity. So I actually like Max Strus, and he's not really a guy that you can really fully take advantage of. I mean, they can try, if they're not familiar, I guess, with Max Strus. But I know everybody's familiar with everybody in the playoffs right now. This is a conference final. So to me, I think Max Strus, the production that he gives in this series is going to be crucial because I think the game plan is obviously going to be on Jimmy, Bam, and then Tyler Hero. So if Max Strus could get free and give me 15, I don't think that's too much to ask. He could get 15. I think 15 to... damn, I don't know if I'm asking for too much, but I'll say this. If Max Strus could give the Heat 15 to 18, then I think it will do wonders for the Heat in this particular series. So I think he's one of the key factors for me for the Heat, really trying to get through this series. Any other X factors for you?
No, I mean, I don't know if he's an X factor, but I think if you could get quality minutes from Gabe Vincent, then that's going to change a lot of things too. Because we've seen like how deep the Heat are. They have capable scorers. So it's like, it's just, I don't know. It's tough. I don't want to put him as like an X factor because I think the Heat could win the series without real production from Gabe Vincent. I think he's more of just like a plus. Like if all that could come into fruition and Gabe Vincent has a game or two, because that's the type of guy, you just need a game or two from them guys. If he could give you a hot game and you win because he had the hot hand when the offense was down or whatever, I think that makes a huge difference. And I don't think Boston has as many of those guys. Like, I don't know if you really... I know Peyton Pritchard and Grant Williams just came off of an anomaly performance in the Game 7, to be honest. But I don't have any expectation that Peyton Pritchard, who's been hidden for majority of the season, not getting a lot of minutes, is going to come in against a great defensive team in Miami and have that kind of game. Like, he started getting hot after Milwaukee was kind of already broken late in the game. So I don't want people to read too much into Peyton Pritchard as far as like, oh yeah, he's going to be the guy giving quality minutes. Like, he hasn't had quality minutes all season, and there's a
spot minutes for him, 100%.
Yeah, it's been spot minutes. So it's like if somebody they get too, in foul trouble or whatever. So I don't think like him hitting 5 threes is something that's just going to happen consistently against Miami. Like, talk about how great Boston is defensively. Miami's just as great, almost just as great defensively. Like, it's like looking in the mirror of how these teams are going to play ball.
Yeah, I think they're just as good. I actually, like you said, the Spider-Man meme. When it comes to defense, they're the exact same to me. They can both do the same things, and they both can really shut a team down very, I wouldn't say easily, but they could definitely shut a team down with the right game plan and the right personnel. Really quick before we move on to how the number 2 options will perform on both teams, I wanted to ask you, Tyler Hero, what type of production is he going to give? What type of production are you expecting from him in this playoff series? Because throughout the playoffs, Hero been a little low-key. He's been down. He's averaged over 20 off the bench this entire year. But then going into the playoffs, I believe, what is he averaging? 13 or 14 or something like that total for the postseason. And he hasn't been the same Hero in the regular season in the playoffs, but that could be a lot of factors. A lot of things happen in the postseason. But there were a lot of jokes. He played great in the bubble, and then last year he didn't play as well in the bubble, so we got all of those bubble hero jokes. So to me, I think it's his time to step up in this particular series. Now, how much do you think he could give you in this series, and are you expecting anything, I should say, from Hero in this series, or how much?
I have 20. Like, you didn't give me what?
20, or you think he could give you 20?
Both. Like, I need 20 points per game. I think he gave me 20 points per game all season and winning 6th man of the year. The only thing is for him, with guys who win awards, we always look at, they need to validate it, right? But like with Tyler Hero, it really wasn't close. So there's nothing really like that he has to validate coming into the playoffs as far as like, oh yeah, I'm the guy. This is the guy who gave 6th man of the year when there's 3 other guys. Like, he was competing against Cam Johnson and Kevin Love. Really nothing that he has to validate as far as that was probably the farthest thing as far as awards go when it comes to him winning 6th man of the year. So, but he needs to put some pressure on himself. I think Jimmy Butler needs to put some pressure. He needs to arguably be the second best scorer like he's been all season long. Like I said, we've talked about time and time again. This is going to be a series where people are trying to find points.
Oh, yeah.
And so I need to find those points from Tyler Hero down the stretch. I don't want to necessarily say bubble hero where I need 37 in game 3 to turn the series around or whatever, but I do need 6th man of the year, Tyler Hero, to finally show up. The only thing why I'm not upset with him now is because we haven't needed him. Like, we beat Atlanta in 5, we beat Philly in 6, took advantage of all the other mismatches, so we haven't needed him. So him not playing well has kind of went under the rug and we let it ride because you're still winning games. So you can complain about all the little things, but when you're winning, none of it matters. All the mistakes come out when you're losing games. And so if Tyler Hero is only giving us 13, 14 points a game and we're losing, that's going to come out and that's going to be like, I'm telling you, Miami Heat people will be ready. Everybody will be ready to trade Tyler Hero and be like a Bradley Beal, and I promise to God. Like how he's played all year, nobody wants to get rid of Tyler Hero in any trade package for anybody. If he plays terrible in this series and we lose the ball, so he only giving us 12, 13 points a game, I'm telling you, you're going to see so many NBA trade machines with Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and Vincent gone for Bradley Beal. I'm telling you, it's going to happen. So yeah, he needs to give us 20. Like he needs to give us at least the same production. He's not a superstar where I expect him, like Jimmy Butler, to elevate his play in the playoffs. But I need his play that he gave me in the regular season. I need it to be at least consistent with what you did in the regular season.
Yeah, I agree. And the Heat fans, I'm in Miami a lot, so I talk to a lot of Heat fans. I'm a low-key Miami Heat supporter. I go to a lot of their games as well. I was just over there last week, and now I'm pissed because I'm like, damn, they're in the conference finals. I should be over there at the games too, since my boys is out of there. But the Heat fans have a really hot and cold relationship with Tyler Hero. Like one day they love Tyler Hero, and the next day they, like you said, they want to trade him and put him in the trade machine when he doesn't play as well. So, you never know what Heat fans or people in general are expecting of Tyler Hero, because one day they love him, one day they hate him. Now, he's one of the Heat's best individual creators off the dribble. So, like you said, I would go 15 to 20. Nah, he needs 20. Yeah,
he needs 20, bro. Like, put the pressure on him. We let him ride because we winning. Put the pressure on him.
100%. Tyler Hero needs 20. I'm putting that on the set. Hero needs 20.
He won an award.
Come on.
He won an award, not validated. You got validated to me because I don't care that the award wasn't close and there's no argument. Like, validate the fact that you were Sixth Man of the Year, because we've asked the same from Jordan Clarkson and any of those other guys. We asked for those guys to validate your award, but usually the races are pretty close. With this year, like, no eyes were on Tyler Hero. Nobody was literally upset except maybe Phoenix fans about Tyler Hero winning the award because we felt like it was a landslide. Like, that's the one award they could have announced with 10 games left in the regular season.
100%. I don't think it was even close either at all. 100%. So we putting on the set. Me and you, Mo. Hero needs 20.
Yeah.
Going into this series. All right, let's talk about the number 2 options in this series. Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown. Now, to me, these two, I single these two out because these two, me personally, I think whoever plays better out of these two might be the winner in this series. Now, I'm going to revisit this at the end of the series and see who played better this series, who not only had the better numbers, but who had more of an impact in this series. Because you could get your stats, but have no impact. I've been telling people that for a long time. Just because you get 20 or 25, don't mean it was a good 25. It could be a real quiet-ass 25, all right? So I usually say that to a lot of people. And so let's talk about the number 2 options. Bam Adebayo, Jaylen Brown. I'm going to start with you. Which number 2 option do you believe will step up the most in this particular series? And what type of production are you expecting from either one or both?
All right, so this hurts my heart to say. But as far as expect to step up more, I say Jaylen Brown. And a wing player. I expect him to step up more because he's a wing player. He's got more to his game to be able to give in such a defensive battle. He can create his own shot. Not that Bam Adebayo is like lacking anything offensively, but this is like a wing player league. Like, you need a strong wing essentially to win the championship. Like, we're talking about Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler. So I think Jaylen Brown is more apt to step up. He's had some really good games in the playoffs, while we're also talking about Bam Adebayo has struggled a little bit. And so we expect him to finally step up. Same way we're talking about Tyler Hero. And so we've seen Jaylen Brown be that man when he needed to be. We've seen him get hot. We know he can shoot. We know he's a two-way defender. So with impact, I think Bam Adebayo, he could have less on the stat line, but have more of an impact when you look at blocks and defense around the rim. Like, I do think that. But as far as stepping up, like, Jaylen Brown statistically will probably be the one to step up more and probably up his game. But Bam Adebayo could only average 14, 15 points, but like his impact defensively, not even blocks necessarily, him making Jason Tatum adjust shots at the rim, making Jaylen Brown adjust shots at the rim, making Robert Williams have to settle for 10 to 15 footers instead of 5-foot hook shots and layups. So I think Bam could have more of an impact, but I don't know, man. Jaylen Brown's a hell of a two. He's a hell of a 2 option, bro. Like, he really is. He could explode for 30 or 40 if he gets hot. And that's like the scary thing. I don't know if Bam could dominate Al Horford and Robert Williams and explode for 30 or 40.
Listen, brother. I'm glad you said that. I don't know if it was possible for me to agree and disagree in the same point, but I am right now. So you're 100% right about Jaylen Brown, about wing players and how important they are, especially in a playoff series. But I'm going to go the opposite route on this. I think Bam Adebayo is going to play better in this series, and I think he's going to step up more. And the reason that I'm saying that is because to the naked eye, it may not look like that on the stat sheet at the end of the series, like you said, but the impact to me is what's more important. Now, Jaylen Brown could get a stat line of 25, 4-on-4, 25, 5-5, or something like that. But Bam could get you 16, 11, and 8, something like that, with 2 blocks, 2 steals. To me, in my humble opinion, that's more impactful than a 25-point or a 20-point Jaylen Brown game. And talking about Bam, my brother, like, the impact that he's, like I said, the impact that he's going to have, it's not necessarily in the stat sheet, but it's impact performance and impact buckets and impact moments. Now, if everybody remembers, obviously everybody remembers, but he had the most important block in the bubble, in that conference finals that they had on JT. Now, he says he always talks about it. He texts it to JT all the time about the block that I did. And I know that's haunting JT. So that's going to be, he's definitely going to be trying to get his get back. So I feel like Jayson Tatum is going to be the more motivated player on the Celtics side in this series. Now, going back to Jaylen Brown, like I said, he could have 20 to 25, but it may not be impactful as Bam, because I think one of the game plans for the Heat and for Coach Spo is going to be to shut down Jaylen Brown. I think they're going to not necessarily allow Tatum to get his points, but I think they're not going to overreact to Tatum getting 35, to Tatum getting 40. I think they're going to be more focused on shutting Jaylen Brown down and keeping his production down to 15, maybe 20, or even if he gets 20, if he shoots 7 for 19 or something like that, that's a tough 20 points to get. So to me, I think Bam Adebayo is going to step up the most out of those 2 particular players in this series, but it's going to be tough because both of them have to have the right impact in order for both of their teams to win in this series. So you said Jaylen Brown, I said Bam Adebayo. We're going to see at the end of this series who is going to have the better production. But to me, and also, I don't know if you agree with this, I think you do, but it's more about impact for me rather than the stat. Yeah, I'm not a box score watcher.
Yeah, it 100% is, but I still think, like, because he can be that two-way player, he can play defense. He can have an impact on the defensive floor, make a Jimmy Butler give up the ball when you need him to kind of take over and get a bucket. Be that guy to guard Victor Oladipo if he starts getting hot. So I think he can have that defensive impact too. Mm-hmm. It hurt me to say it, but I try not to be biased because I'm like, Jaylen Brown really is one hell of a player.
Though, bro. I appreciate it.
Yeah, but it hurt me because I'm like, I can go on this bias rant about Bam Adebayo, but even with having seen from both players right now, like Jaylen Brown is playing better in the playoffs than Bam Adebayo is right now. And so, like, I think based on that, there's a lot of pressure for Bam to show up, where there's just not really pressure for Jaylen to show up, but continue to do what he's doing. Where there's a lot more pressure for Bam to really elevate his play to basically be that all-star that he was formerly, let alone beyond that, because you need a guy to go alongside Jimmy Butler who elevates in the playoffs, and you need Bam Adebayo to do that. So the expectation and pressure could be very high for Bam. But so I'm waiting to see. I think Jaylen Brown will be perfectly fine, though.
100%. I couldn't have said that any better, man. Moving on, coaching. Now, you brought up coaching earlier in our first initial part, bringing up the series. This right here, my brother, might be a coaching series, Mo. Now, we're going to talk about how much a factor will coaching be in this series. You said it earlier. You alluded to it earlier, and I agree. I think it's going to be huge. Caps lock. I think the coaching is going to be huge in this series, and so huge in this series, I actually low-key think it might become a wash, even though I'm one of the great Coach Spo supporters. I think he's one of the top 2, top 3 coaches in the league. I'll probably give him top 2, to be honest with you. I'm a huge Eric Spoelstra supporter. He was named I think a top 15 coach all time on the NBA 75 anniversary. So he getting his love there. On the Celtics side, you got Ime Udoka, who will probably have to match or exceed Spo's leadership, his intellect, and also his strategy in this series. Spo does have the upper hand, but Udoka's not a bad coach at all, and is not that far behind. Not in terms of experience, but in terms of strategy, in terms of adjustments, and in terms of also his demeanor. Now, you look at both of those coaches, Spo would get crazy, he'll yell at you a little bit, but then he also has a calm demeanor at the same time. And it's like, listen, fellas, I need you to tighten this shit up. And Udoka is the same. He'll yell at you, scream on you, and then tell you, listen, bro, I love you, my guy, but you need to tighten this shit up. So I think both of those coaches are exceptional for that. And I think both of these coaches are going to have a phenomenal series. And I think it might turn into a tactical series. Now, I think both coaches are even more massively important because neither one of these teams right now, the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics, have a true point guard right now. Now, Kyle Lowry, we know he's the best point guard in the Heat, but he's a little hurt right now. He missed, 5 or 6 playoff games already, dealing with that hamstring injury. I believe he's out for game 1. Marcus Smart also on the other side is a little bit banged up. I'm not sure yet if he's going to play game 1, but I believe he will. But Marcus Smart is not a pure point himself, and he's still improving as a distributor. Now, if Kyle Lowry's out, Marcus Smart is out or in, both of these teams need another playmaker, facilitator, type of guy who can really calm down the team, really get them into their sets. And that's where I think coaching comes into play, because I think the de facto point guard on both of the teams is the coach, low key. I think, the same way we saw Jason Kidd yelling at the Mavs, yelling at Luka when he was bringing it up the court, 1-4 flat, whatever set they want to run. You're going to see both of those coaches do that also. So I think it might be so crazy that both of these coaches might be stepping on the floor mid-play or some shit like that. And the rest, and damn sure, I better not be Scott Forster, but if Scott Forster's there, they're going to get a tech for even stepping on the damn court. But to me, coaching is extremely important in this series. And talk to me about what you feel or how you feel about the coaching in this series and how much of a factor is going to be.
So this is a war between Coach Spo and Ime Udoka. And I say that because battles are won by finesse. Battles are won by a good day. You take the Battle of Saratoga. It was won by a couple good days. But the overall war was won by America. So generals win wars. And these two are generals. And they're going to go back and forth. And the battle is game 1. The battle is game 2. The battle is midway through the third quarter when they have to really adjust. And they're going to go to that drawing board and they're going to move the pieces. They're going to figure out what they got to do. So I think those bigger adjustments, each game is a battle and it's going to be many battles throughout the games. Yes. But this is a war for both of them. And these are the two generals that are going to have some of the greatest tactics. And you've had tactics like a numerous amount of times, but that's the right word, where it's going to get so tactical that you're watching a game of chess within a game of basketball. But not everybody's going to realize that or pay attention to or even appreciate that. You're going to see midway through the second quarter what lit a fire in Miami. Oh, is it just because Jimmy Butler got hot, but not knowing Jimmy Butler started playing more off the ball on the right side and they were setting screens. It's going to be something so small that the casual eye's not going to pay attention to. But there's going to be so many adjustments within each of these battles that the overall war is, but they could be a wash, because I don't know if Coach Spo is just going to flat out coach Ime Udoka. I mean, these are two coaches who in their first 2 respective series has out-coached the opposite team. But now these are the 2 generals facing for the final battle to go play for the championship. And so it's going to be, it's going to be tough. This matchup of Coach Spo versus Ime Udoka, this could be the spark of the Heat and Celtics have always had a rivalry, especially as of recent, since the 2010s when they were playing the Big Three and things like that. But with Ime Udoka and Coach Spo being young and these cores of both teams being young, this could really start sparking back up the second matchup in the Eastern Conference Finals in the past 3 years. This could spark a newborn rivalry where it gets heated and the coaching elevates and the play elevates. And it's in the way they play defense. I just think this is war right here. And I think it could be a wash. I don't really know if Coach Spo's going to flat out coach him, but it's going to be exciting to see for sure.
Yeah, listen, Mo, I'm not going to hold you, brother. I know it's 5-on-5 on the court, but it's about to be 6-on-6 in this series. It's about to be 6-on-6 because, like I said, both of these brothers are so crazy and so emotional, so invested, so smart in their tactical adjustment that they gonna be standing on the floor too with the guys. I'm once I saw Coach Spo had that argument with Jimmy Butler on the bench, I know this wasn't the first time that shit happened. He really pumped out to Jimmy what you said? What you said? I might snuff you on the chest if you got something to say to me. Then Udonis had he wanted to smoke, and that's why I really love Coach Spo. I'm not gonna hold you. Now I feel like Udoka would do the same. And he probably does that in practice also as well. And I do want to call out a lot of these people on Twitter because I don't know if you remember this. Back early in the season when the Celtics got off to their rough start, there was a lot of people saying Udoka wasn't the right coach for this team. They were telling him that they wanted to fire him. They're like, oh, he doesn't have the right message. Ever since Marcus Smart was talking all that nonsense early in the year. But what did he do? He didn't wilt under that pressure or wilt under the criticism. He said, you know what? I'm going to probably talk to them on the side and say, listen, If you want more touches or you want more responsibility, I'm gonna give it to you. And then you show me. And you see that he did that and it worked out for him. Marcus Smart has made a exceptional transition. He's been much better from the point guard position and distributing for the Boston Celtics. And he was one of the main catalysts in that Milwaukee Bucks series. And Spo, we already know how Spo do. Championship coach, ready. He wants to smoke on everybody. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would laugh if I see Spo in some Miami Heat shorts on the bench saying, yo, put me in. I might put myself in.
Juwan Howard, like, hey, both of them want to slap each other. Like, hold on, bro. But out of a sign of respect.
Yep. That's a fact. And you know, Chris Quinn might over there jump on the bench too. Might jump on the court. It's gonna be funny. But yeah, coaching battle is gonna be exceptional this series. And if I see any of that wild stuff happen, I'm atting you on Twitter. I'm be like, yo, look at these guys.
They on the court. They trying to play. Udoka said, give me the ball.
Bo, I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna at you if I see that, man. So, moving on. The individual battle that everybody is waiting for. The two best players in this series. One of my two favorite players in the league. Jayson Tatum. Everybody knows that's one of my guys. I've been a strong supporter of Jayson Tatum. I've been calling him MVP for 2 years now. They called me crazy for 2 years. He did get it done, but he was a little bit closer this year. If the Celtics had a better start, he might have been up there. Jimmy Butler has always been one of my favorite players in the league. Always a guy that I wanted Chris Paul to play with. I was very vocal that I wanted Chris Paul on the Heat before he went to the Suns. I'm like, yo, I need him over there with Jimmy. For selfish reasons too, because I'm always in Miami, but still. But this individual matchup of this series, Jayson Tatum, Jimmy Butler, who is going to win this battle by the end of the series? I'm going to let you start off. I know you're a Heat guy, and I'm not mad at you if you copping for your boys right now. So talk to me. How do you feel this battle is going to go in this series? Jayson Tatum, Jimmy Butler. Who's coming out on top?
Man, individually, man, I almost think this cancel each other out, which is why we talked about Bam and Jaylen Brown. And Jimmy Butler is one of the least accomplished players to elevate the way he elevates in the playoffs. For the guys who do that, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, they're decorated with championships, right? And it's like, because Jimmy Butler isn't necessarily as talented as any of those guys on a regular basis, the way he elevates in the playoffs, though, like he's one of the least decorated. He doesn't lose because he chokes. He doesn't lose series because he doesn't show up. He doesn't have that bad rap of like he didn't show up here. He doesn't have that James Harden, I don't have a ring. It's not the same story with Jimmy Butler. Mm-hmm. My thing with Jayson Tatum is the same reason I said Dallas was going to beat Phoenix. And it was a tough call. You remember I even tweeted you about it. I was like, you sure? Yeah. And he was like, man, I can see it, but I just can't take him. Yep. Jayson Tatum is what, 23, about to be 24 years old? Mm-hmm. Been to multiple Eastern Conference Finals, but this is the age where when we're watching guys and we know that this is about, we're witnessing a great career in the making for the next 10 years. Luka's there and Tatum's there. Mm-hmm. And this is around the time frame, around that 23, 24 years old. They got deep into the playoffs where they put that stamp on everything that you're witnessing. I think Luka did that against Phoenix in Game 7. Now, granted, it turned out to be a blowout, but him having 27, matching with Phoenix's 27 at halftime, 35 and 30 minutes, like that's what great players do, and then just let the bench players kind of get theirs. I think Jayson Tatum has that ability. Like, as great as he's played in the playoffs, he's fallen short of what he wants. He wants to get to NBA Finals, and that's the next step for him. This is his second Eastern Conference Finals appearance. The next step, and he's at that age where we've seen Kobe Bryant take off. We see Michael Jordan take off. We've seen LeBron James take off. Like Kevin Durant around that 23, 24 years old. Steph Curry was at about 25, but this is around that time where they put the stamp on, okay, I'm here for the next 10 years. Everything that you're witnessing, this is when I put my stamp on it and you believe it. So that's why I say they're a wash, because Jimmy Butler plays with a chip on his shoulder. But this is around the time where guys like Jayson Tatum, top 7, 8 players in the league right now, even considering the veterans, arguably the best player under 25, right alongside with Luka Doncic. But this is when like they welcome the club superstar and they get let into that VIP platinum service, auto popping level. And the so
Delta Club.
That's what makes me nervous, though. That's what makes me nervous, is because this, as much as Jimmy Butler, as great as he is in the playoffs, this is around the time where true superstars who start creating their legacies, this is about the age they do it. Yeah. And that's why I took Luka in Game 7 in the Dallas Mavericks And I won't take Boston, but that's my biggest fear in this series. Of everything we talked about, is this is around the time where legacies start being created and we start seeing championships and playoff runs and great performances throughout seasons from Jayson Tatum, as if we haven't already seen it. But this is about where, like, now he's played for some clout. He's played to be welcome in that club. But once you get in that club, now you're creating a legacy. Because not every basketball player that's playing ball, not every all-star has a legacy. Not everybody's legendary. But around this time is when those Jayson Tatums and Luka Doncic take their careers to the next level of really creating a legendary legacy.
This is why I brought you on this episode, dog, because you talk the truth. You know what I'm saying? So I agree with you. I was hoping you went Jimmy Butler. I'm not going to lie to you, because I also...
You wanted to argue with me. You wanted to argue with me. I think this is one of those, like, they X each other out.
Yes.
Both might average 30, both might average 28 to 30 points a game. Both might have great performances, but you'll never look and just necessarily be like, oh, Jayson Tatum flat out outplayed Jimmy Butler, or vice versa.
And I'm glad you said that, because the name of this episode is going to be Jayson Butler. That's going to be the name of this episode, because that's what everybody wants to see. And I think these boys are going to go mano a mano, bucket for bucket, defense for defense. The individual battle between these two, I think, is going to be crazy. I think Tatum is really learning that he has to show a little bit more attitude in this series. He has to show a little bit more fight in this series, and he can't get punked in any series. He really took that matchup with KD very, very serious, and that's what I know JT is turning the corner. He took that matchup last year when he was in the playoffs, he was there by himself. Jaylen Brown wasn't there. He had to drop 50, over the case may be. But he was overmatched. And I think mentally in the back of his mind, he's like, man, we can't win this damn series. You know what? I'm going to just get my numbers. I'm going to get my buckets. But this time, you've seen it all from Jayson Tatum in this entire playoffs. Scoring, dishing, defense, leadership. You've seen everything. And that, from Jimmy Butler, is what we've been seeing for the last couple of years. So Jimmy Butler's been doing this. I think Jayson Tatum is really going to come into it. I mean, he's already come into his own. I can't even say that. But this series, I think both of these guys are going to get elevated in this particular series, win or lose, from both individual players. Now, when I look at these two, I'm in my head, Jayson Tatum is obviously the better scorer than Jimmy Butler. But if Jimmy can match Tatum bucket for bucket, not necessarily in points, but impactful buckets coming down a stretch. If Jimmy could score 10 points in the first three quarters and then score another 10 in the fourth, and you'd be like, damn, he had a wild, crazy game, but he only ended up with 20 points, 27-7. JT probably has to score a little bit more to have that same type of impact that Jimmy has on the floor throughout the series, throughout the game. But impact for impact, I think these two are going to be a wash, like you said. So I agree with you. And to me, not the only way, but one of the major ways that he can win this series is if Jimmy matches him bucket for bucket, impactful bucket for bucket. Now, I wouldn't say that they don't want to rely on Tyler Hero, because, you know, he should be giving 15 to 20 points a night, as we discussed before. But it's all going to fall on Jimmy Butler's shoulders, and it's all going to fall on Jayson Tatum's shoulders. Both of those guys are going to get the credit, and in turn, both of those guys are going to get the blame if their team loses. So I think this series is really it's going to elevate both. But I think after this series, because we're going to get into our picks after this, but I think Jimmy Butler's going to enter another stratosphere at the end of this series. I'm not going to hold you, man. I think it's about time that the world's going to put major respect on Jimmy Butler's name at the end of this series. You know, I'm kind of alluding to my point here, but I got the Heat going to the finals. But I do think the respect on Jimmy Butler's name at the end of the series is going to be colossal. And I think in turn, Jayson Tatum is still going to get the same respect, honestly, win or lose, because he's already proven himself, taking out KD and taking out Giannis in his playoffs. So he already has a media mental factor that this guy already stepped up in this postseason. So it's going to be a battle, my brother.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It's going to be crazy. So rounding out the show, closing out the show, predictions. Now, I know I can't say the prophecy anymore because my boys didn't get it done, and I couldn't be more angry. I'm going to do an episode right after this, going off on the Suns because I'm sick and tired of these dudes. But in this prediction, right? Your series prediction, we'll go off. Who you got winning this series? How many games? How do you see it playing out?
So I'm going to say Heat in 7. And people are going to tell you, if you think the Heat are going to win or if you think the Celtics are going to win, you're not saying nothing by anybody winning in 7, right? Like, that means you're not 100% sure. But if I don't say the Heat in 7, I would have to say the Heat in 5. And I'm not saying the Heat in 5 because if it gets to game 6, I don't see Miami beating Boston at in TD Garden in game 6. Like, we know what Boston atmosphere is like on a regular basis. They eat, sleep, and breathe their teams, let alone basketball. This is the Eastern Conference Finals. So, and I don't know if the Heat really take care of business where I'm like, they beat them in 5. That would be a shocker if either team lost in 5. So I'm going with Miami Heat in 7. For anybody who's like, oh, he's not fully confident, but it's like, I'm telling people where I'm coming from. But this is that much of a dogfight, though. And like, I think this is the type of series that real basketball fans have been waiting for those defensive juggernauts to play against each other. Like, I think true basketball fans are going to love this. And I think a lot of basketball casuals are going to be on Twitter complaining about this series. I really do. Like, I very seriously mean that. I think Tatum will maybe have a 30-point game. I think Jimmy Butler have 30. But I think the overall product will not be great for the casual fan. But the overall product of this series will be great for people who really love that relentless grit basketball, that tactical, coaches going to war, the players going to battle every game. So, but I'm going to take the Heat in 7. It's no way in hell I'm taking Boston. I'm sorry. No way.
I hear you on that. And that's why we have Above the Rim, and that's why we have Up in Flames, because we don't care about what the casual fan thinks. We know what we talking about. We watch what we watch, and we going to say what we going to say, right? So, I hate that I agree with you, man. But, I wanted to come on here and argue with you, but, we connected for a reason. And I got the Heat in 7, too. I'm not going to hold you. I'm not going to lie. I'm trying to get down there for one of them games. I'm going to be honest with you. But I'm going to go Heat in 7 in this series, man, because for a lot of the reasons that you just said, I can't see the Heat winning in 5 games. Both of these teams are too good. They're too evenly matched, too tactical, too smart, too physical. I don't think there's any team that can beat each other in 5. That, to me, like you said, will be a complete and major shock. And I think it's going to go down to a really hard-fought, tough 7-game series. Now, the question with you, since we both have the Heat in 7 in this series, which team will win the first game on the road? Ooh, that's a tough one, right? I say, I'm gonna say Boston. I say they win game 2. I say they win game 2. Okay. Like, I think the Heat make a statement and win game 1. And I would say Boston would tie it up 1-1. Like, I don't know if this is gonna be like the Phoenix-Dallas series where it's home. Like, because if Miami goes up 2-0, like at home, like I think either team could steal one on the road. So I don't think this will be that situation where you have higher expectations because of the way they play ball. You're not looking for necessarily one guy to score 40 for you to get one on the road. So you could coaching could be the difference. One bad coaching night could be the difference of stealing one on the road. So I'll say Boston just because I think they leave out of Miami 1-1, and I think they come back to Miami in game 5 tied 2-2. I like that you said that. One thing I'm also worried about as well is the fans in Miami. Now, everybody knows the Miami Heat fans are a little bit notorious.
They don't show up second half, bro. Like, what they be doing?
That cannot happen. That cannot happen this series because you know what? When you get to Boston, those boys are going to be there 2 hours before the game.
2 hours before, drunk already, 10 beers deep with nachos and hot dogs and everything. Yes. 2 hours before, like they've been there, like they're gonna camp out there before game 3. They're gonna be ready to go as the minute the garden open.
Yes.
They in there, and so that's why I'm like, bro, that whole showing up after halftime and everybody getting there is like, and my boy, he's a Heat fan. I think he's going to either tonight's game or game 2, but he's a big time Heat fan, lived down there in Miami. Every time I be on the phone with him, he's went to multiple games in the playoffs. And he be late. Like I be watching tip off, we be happy for the second quarter, and I be like, bro, what? Oh, we don't show up on time. I'm like, that's the problem. The Eastern Conference Finals, y'all need to be there 2 hours before tip-off. We need that sellout crowd to show up from beginning to end to have that home court advantage the whole time we were playing the game.
Exactly. People are really underestimating how important it is for that home crowd on both sides because the home crowd really sways the energy of the game on both sides. If the team is doing well, it will really juice you up more. And if the team is doing bad, it will really mess up your anxiety or whatever the case may be. We saw it in the Mavs Sun series. The crowd was tight in that game. Once the game,
they were dead by halftime.
They were dead. First quarter, they were dead. They were dead. Everybody in the Footprint Center in Phoenix was shook, was scared, and that honestly, I think that had a part to do. I'm not going to blame it on the fans because these guys just choked, but it had a part to do with the Suns not being able to muster up the mental energy to get back in that game. So
it was louder in the bubble than it was in Phoenix in Game 7.
And you know what's crazy? That's crazy because Phoenix has one of the best crowds. They're having one of the best crowds in the last 2 years. Last year during the playoff run, that crowd was out of control, that crowd. So I was very disappointed in how they were so reactive and they were so nervous in that Game 7, which also translated to the team because they look very nervous also as well. So with that being said, Heat fans, you got to be there early. I need you to juice up the team. They're going to need it from you because there are injuries on both sides of the series, and we don't want the refs to be controlling this game more than the crowd. So we got to see the crowd get there early, really be on their game, and help the Heat out, man. Because I'm not going to lie, that home court advantage Boston.
Yeah, 100%. I've never been able to explain it. The only time we were selling out was... And there early was the LeBron James years. And even still, instead of coming at halftime, they would come after the first quarter. They gave us the LeBron special where they'll show up after the first quarter.
100%. Man, Bo, Cheese, I'm glad I brought you on this episode, my brother. You were excellent to talk to about the series. I knew you would be the right and the perfect guy to talk to with this series. Too bad it wasn't in the finals because I was waiting to do that, but we got...
Oh, that would have been perfect. That would have been so perfect. I've been waiting on your prophecy. I've been letting you know I've been watching it. You know I've been paying attention to it. Like, he might be right. Like, he really might be right. And that's what made me get you on there because I'm like, hold on, somebody believe in Miami just like me.
I said that from preseason early in there before.
Somebody believe in Miami. And I'd always been kind of keeping up with stuff, but then I'm paying attention to the tweets. I'm like, Heat versus, man, I got to have him on here. And I'm looking at preseason while I'm like, he talking this shit. Let me get him on here.
100%, man. So yeah, this is gonna be a excellent series. And once again, I appreciate you, man, for joining me on this episode, man. I appreciate you taking the time as always. You a good brother. Family, make sure you keeping up with the show. UpNFlamezPod. Make sure you check out my man Mo Murphy on Twitter. I'm not sure if on Instagram, the same thing, but check him out on Twitter. Check out his show. Make sure you like and subscribe to my boy. And we gonna check in with you throughout the entire series, man, because you know on Twitter we gonna be going off about the series.
My mental health might not be okay. If it get bad, I might not be okay. So I might have to delete the app a little bit.
You might, because I wanted to delete the app on Sunday night. I'm not gonna hold you, bro.
It could get bad, bro, and everybody gonna have their jokes, but you gotta take it. You know,
got to.
With what we do. And putting our thoughts out there for people to digest and criticize, you got to take it. It's all fun and games at the end of the day. Till it gets personal. It's all fun and games at the end of the day.
100%. So my brother, I appreciate you as always, man. Thanks for joining me on another episode. Family, this is episode 181, and we out.